Namaste everybody. Today we are planning to talk about Bhaja Govindam. I found an interesting book which talks about Bhaja Govindam in the form of stories. Each shloka has been explained in the form of stories. So I have selected 12 shlokas and I am going to cover all these shlokas with 24 stories. So now Pushkala will say a prayer and then we will go ahead.
Sada balarupapi vignadrihantri mahadanti vaktrapi panchasya manya vidhindradimragya ganeshabhidame vidhattam shriyam कापि कल्याणमूर्ति श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं Lokashankaram.
Bhaja Govindam is a composition of Adi Shankara, and I have just put up a picture of the book that I have referred to. There are several books and several explanations given to this of this shloka, but this book I found very interesting, and since it has covered everything in the form of stories, I thought it will be useful for the younger generation. About Adi Shankara, all of us remember him in this photograph. So we all know that this is Adi Shankara with his 4 main disciples, and this is the picture that comes to our mind. He was born in Kaladi in 788 and he died in 820 at a young age of 32 years. And he was born in Kerala and he passed away in Kedarnath. His parents Aryamba and Shiva Guru, and Guru is Govinda Bhagavatpada. Of course, we all know that for philosophy that he propagated was Advaita Vedanta. He is known for his bhashyams for the Brahma Sutra, all the Upanishads, Gita, then Upadesha Sahasre, Viveka Chudamani, apart from the innumerable compositions that he has made. See, that was a time in India when Hinduism, the Sanatana Dharma, was riddled with superstitions, and there was an invasion of all kinds of different kinds of groups and the advent of other religions. So Adi Shankara came almost like an avatara to sort of consolidate Hinduism. The fragmented Hinduism, he came to reunite it and established Advaita Vedanta. His main purpose was, see, Vedavyasa divided the Vedas into 4 because he realized this normal common man will not be able to memorize the whole of the Vedas. So he divided it into 4 shakhas, so it said that at least one shakha, one person will be able to memorize. So later when Adi Shankara came, he brought down all our great scriptures in a language which the common man would be able to understand. So we owe a lot to him and we should be ever grateful to him for what we are able to understand today. Here he started with a premise: non-human bodies like plants and animals are not fit for a life of devotion. So here this itself tells us the importance of being born a human. Now that we have attained a human birth, we should lead a life of devotion to the Lord. To make us understand this major point, he composed this Bhaja Govindam. So the story goes that on the banks of Ganga, on the steps, he found an elderly person who was trying to memorize the intricacies of the Sanskrit grammar. He looked at him and felt very pitiful that why is this man wasting his time on such things instead of thinking about the Lord, instead of going towards worship and devotion. Why are you wasting your time? So this triggered the thought that he should write something for the people of this world. So taking pity on him, he advised him, don't waste time, and he asked him to go ahead. So the Bhaja Govindam was composed on this occasion. Here again, there is a very interesting point. Said Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Sutra, Upanishads and all are very tough for us to understand, for the common person to understand. And for that we need a little background of philosophy, we need knowledge of Sanskrit. But Bhaja Govindam is meant for people like us. So he decided that let me compose something which will be easy for the common person. So this Bhaja Govindam tells us the home truths within the range of our bitter and sweet experiences in this world. So Adi Shankara felt the children of Bharatavarsha should be exposed to this composition at the time or before the time they enter into adulthood. So that would be a wonderful time for them to know what is the purpose of human birth. So he felt that we should use our vichara and viveka and self-realization so that we are born in ignorance, we live in ignorance, and then we will also die in ignorance. So this was the main thought which made him compose this. So this was his greatest objective. So here he wants to tell us how difficult it is to be born as a human. See, it is said that you cross 80,000 births before you come to be born as a human. You start off with a plant, then even in animals you start with the smallest being, then gradually you grow from, like how we say evolution. We have crossed all that, from being a fish, from being an amphibian, from being a reptile, then you become a mammal, and then you come to be a man. So then it is such an important birth, this being born a man, and man is the only person, only birth where you have a mind of your own and you have a free will which has been given to you. So we should understand that we should utilize it and spend our life in devotion. See, Adi Shankara was a great advocate of Jnana Yoga, but he also propagated Bhakti Yoga and said that we would be able to achieve the same goal with Bhakti Yoga also. So he emphasizes the importance of devotion to God as a means to spiritual development and to liberate us from the cycle of births and deaths. Now coming to this Bhaja Govindam. This constitutes 31 stanzas. The first verse is a chorus, and the next 2 to 13, 12 verses have been composed by Adi Shankara himself, and this is called the Dvadasha Manjarika Stotram. And 14 to 27 has been composed by one verse each by the 14 disciples who accompanied him throughout his journey, his travel throughout the country, his yatra throughout the country from Kerala to Kedarnath that he did. And the last 4 verses, 28 to 31, are again blessings from Shankara for the true seekers of all times. Now we come to the chorus verse. Pushkala will sing this.
Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate, Samprapte Sannihite Kale, Samprapte Sannihite Kale, Nahi nahi rakshati dukrang karane, Nahi nahi rakshati dukrang karane, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate.
This is the first verse, which is a chorus. Here he is trying to tell us the meaning of bhaja. So Govinda you should glorify, God you should adore. He says meditate on him, don't waste your time, don't be a fool and hold on to all the other things that are there in this world. Try to hold on to his feet. So for there is nobody else who can save you, and like they say, death is at your doorstep. I don't want to make it look very morbid since there are children over here, but that is a point that we have to remember. So let us not waste our life. Along with whatever we are doing, let us think about the Lord also. That should be our thought. And one basic, like first he had made a premise that being born a human, you should do devotion. Next is this lack of attitude of gratitude for what we already have. See, we forget that we have so many things. We think all that, we take everything for granted, is the cause, because this lack of attitude of gratitude is the cause for incompleteness and feeling of missing something. So if you surrender to him through devotion, accepting the present moment without lamenting, you will see miracles. There is a beautiful explanation for worship. Bhaja is worship. Now worship has been described in 3 levels: at the mental level, vocal level and the physical level. Mental level is of course concentration and meditation, for which you need a little bit of practice. But at the vocal level, simple, says truthfulness and harmless speech. Even these two, if followed strictly, constantly, is equal to bhaja. So it's something we can gradually implement this in our day-to-day activities. Truthfulness and harmless speech. Let us begin from that. Rest of it will follow gradually. So at the physical level is of course what we all do. Any puja, any bhajan, kirtan, shloka, whatever, yagya, yoga, all that, whatever we do. Now I will come to the stories. The first story is about Ravana, Shivalinga and Ganesha. See, in all of this, what is stressed is that when you do a tapasya or when you do a puja or prayer, your inner motive should be genuine. It should not be that I want to kill somebody, so I am doing puja. Then ultimately the fruit of your prayers will not reach you in the right way. There will be some, so we should deserve what we desire. So this is a very important thing. So here what happens, Ravana does intense tapasya to Shiva, and Shiva has no option but to give him something, and he asks for the Atmalinga. So he hands over the Atmalinga to Shiva, but to Ravana, but he's not happy about it. So immediately he sends Ganesha in the form of a small child behind Ravana to find out where at some point where he can intervene and interfere. But Ravana, as he was taking it to Lanka, on the way he had to do his daily rituals. So he wants to go and have a bath in the sea and do his daily rituals. So at that time he is looking for someone to hold the linga, because Shiva has said wherever you put it down on the ground, it will get fixed over there. This Ganesha comes as a small child over there, and then when Ravana sees him, he hands over, requests him to hold it for some time. And Ganesha puts a condition. He says, if I have some problem, I will just call you Ravana 3 times, and if you don't come, I will put it down. So then when Ravana goes to have his bath, Ganesha calls him softly, Ravana, 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 and then puts it down. He is not able to remove this, take the Shivalinga to Lanka. So why did this happen? Because this Ravana's ulterior motive was that he would take this Shivalinga and install it within the palace, and for only him to do bhakti. He was not ready to share it with the people of Lanka. So that kind of a motive was not acceptable. So that is why, even though he did a lot of tapasya and he got the boon, but ultimately he was unable to get the benefit of that. They say that this Shivalinga is installed in Gokarna in Karnataka. See, Lord Ganesha, we know that he removes impediments if we are in the right path. If we are doing wrong things, he can cause obstacles also for us. So we should be careful. Next comes the story of Krishna, Satyabhama and Rukmini. Satyabhama was possessive. She was not ready to share Krishna with all the others. So she thought, let me devise a way in which I can have primary ownership of the Lord. So what she says, let us do a Tulabharam. She makes Krishna sit on one side of the balance, on the other side she has a lot of possessions, she is very rich, she is very proud of her beauty and all. She puts everything on that, all her possessions, but the scale does not move at all. And Rukmini comes and just puts one tulasi leaf and the scale moves. So here, once again, what happens? She thought she can encash God for worldly ownership. So that motive of hers was not correct. So that is the reason why this did not happen. Next is the story of Markandeya. See, the great sage Mrikandu Rishi and his wife Marudmati, they worshipped Shiva and wanted to have a child. They asked for a boon and Shiva said, I will give you a boon wherein you will have a very noble child who will be short-lived, or a less intelligent child who will be long-lived. And this Rishi chose the short-lived noble child, and Markandeya was born to them. At one point Markandeya came to know that he was to live only up to 16 years of age. So at that time he did intense tapasya and Shiva, and got blessing of Shiva. So then at the point, it is a very dramatic story that they have written there. At the point where Yamadharmaraj comes to, Dutas come to take him, Shiva comes and saves him. And then later on he is given the blessing of to be as Chiranjeevi. So Shiva was there also. After this, Shiva was called Kalantaka, that is ender of death. So here the prayer was intense and also sincere. So that was the reason why this fructified. Just as a side point, I thought let me tell who are all the 8 Chiranjeevis that we know of. So here Ashwathama, Mahabali Chakravarti and Vedavyasa. Then Hanuman, Vibhishana and Kripacharya. Then Parashurama and Markandeya. So these are the 8 Chiranjeevis that are known to us. Next comes the story of Nachiketa. Vajashravas, a sage, he performed a sacrifice to give away all his possessions. So while he was doing the sacrifice and giving away, he was giving away all his cows. Nachiketa felt that he was not giving the healthy and milking cows. He was giving all the sickly and old cows away as charity. So he repeatedly tells his father, this is not the way we should do, you are not doing the right thing. So he tries to intervene several times. But the father is very upset, he doesn't understand that, he continues with what he is doing. Then at one point this child says, who will you give me away to? So then the father says, in his anger, frustration or whatever, at that point he says, I will give you away to Yama. Then definitely he must have regretted, I don't know, it's not mentioned anywhere. But the child takes up that point and goes away to Yamaloka. There, when he goes there, Yamaraja is not there. So this child is waiting outside at the gate for 3 days. Then when Yamadharmaraja comes after 3 days, he feels very guilty that he has made one Atithi wait for so many days, and then he tells him, what brings you here and this and that, and then he says, I will give you 3 boons. So if this child says, okay. So first one he says, let my father lose his anger. Then next he says, teach me the proper fire ritual. Then third question, these first 2 were very easy, they were granted immediately. Then the third question was, is there life after death? What is the truth? Now this question Yamaraj did not want to tell this child because he felt he was not ready for it. But Nachiketa was insistent and he would not leave. So then he had to go. And this explanation is the greatest, it's a great treatise for all mankind. So I am just putting up these points in brief. Maybe you don't understand at this point, but doesn't matter. Later somewhere you will understand. So he says the great truths are the self is immortal. It was not born nor will it die. Then it does not come out of anything, neither did anything come out of it. And even if the body is destroyed, the soul is not destroyed. The self neither slays nor is it slain. The self is living in all beings. The knowledge about it can neither be obtained on discussion, nor by brain power, nor even by much learning. It reveals only to the deserving one when he chooses. So the one who has realized becomes immortal. Awake, arise, bestir yourself and do not stop until the goal is reached. This statement is very, very important. All of us, you must have heard this. Swami Vivekananda has said it. Arise, arise, awake, stop not until your goal is reached. This is a very important point. It's from some Upanishad and it's also has been quoted over here. See, all of us, we wait. We think there is time. What is the need for spirituality now? We are very busy doing, engrossed in our worldly activities. So we think, reading the Gita, reading the Ramayana, it can be done much later. When we retire, we will start. But then we don't know whether we will live up to we retire, whether at that time we are going to be able to read at all. So that is why Swamiji says, arise, awake, stop not until your goal is reached. And Adi Shankara has now told us what is our goal. So he has told us the purpose of human birth and what is our goal. So let us be active all the time instead of being lethargic and sleeping. Now, next story. Here again, see this Damyata Datta Dayadvam. Paramacharya has composed Maitrim Bhajata. He composed this during the when M.S. Subbalakshmi had gone to the United Nations for a concert. So he composed this song for worldly peace. So in that he has included this Damyata Datta Dayadvam. The meaning of these three words, and in reference to context, I will just explain in a few words. Here, Prajapati is the guru of the Devas, Danavas and Manushya. And at one point, when all of them had finished with their learning or Gurukula, then at that point they wanted to give something as Guru Dakshina to Prajapati. So then they asked him, what should we do? So he said, that's all he said. And each one of them interpreted it in a different way. So see, that is, once you realize what you are missing, you learn to you decipher a word also with the correct meaning. So here what happens, the Devas felt there was too much of frivolousness and happiness and absolutely no control in the Devalok. So they said, we want Damyata, that is self-control. The man, that is Manushya realized that I am very selfish. Most people, humans, are very selfish and self-centered. So he said Datta, which is Dana, charity. The Danavas felt that they were very violent, cruel, and they were living a life very different. So they said we would want some Daya. So each one of them, once you realize even one simple letter, you are able to interpret it in the right way. Here another explanation has been given is, every time the storm cloud thunders, it says da da da. So that should remind us, self-control, be charitable and be compassionate. Now coming to the next story. Here again, this is Bhaja. At one point, Adi Shankara has said in this book, the explanation, he says, Bhaja Govinda. It can be Bhaja Rama, Bhaja Krishna, whatever, some God. So here what Hanuman does when he is crossing the ocean, he comes across 3 types of obstacles while crossing the ocean. Adi Bhautika, that is, this is sorrow caused by the material world. This Mount Mainaka suddenly comes up and tries to block him, or gives him the temptation that you want to take rest, you can sit here and take rest for some time and then go ahead. But Hanuman overcomes this by saying Bhaja Ram, and he conquers this and goes ahead. Then Adi Daivikam, that is sorrows caused by the gods. That is Surasa. Surasa is a representative of the angels. So she comes to test his tenacity of strength and then purpose, and he overcomes that by Bhaja Ram and goes ahead. Adi Atmikam, this is relation between the individual self and the supreme self. For a little time, for a few seconds, Hanuman feels, oh, I have done a good job, I have crossed more than half, I have crossed 2 hurdles. So that little bit of thought that comes into his mind, Simhika. So here again, for a moment, so Simhika comes and he conquers that also, her also, by saying Bhaja Ram. So this is the importance of Bhaja Ram, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Krishna. Now coming to cow. The cow in Sanatana Dharma is considered the greatest karma yogi. So Bhaja Govindam not only removes hindrances, but it also hastens our progress towards the goal of godliness. See, Govinda is considered a protector of the cows, earth, Veda and knowledge. Cow, we know, is a true karma yogi. It takes very little from the world and gives back a lot. So see, the cow just eats grass, grazes on the grass and produces milk. This milk, if we keep it safely, silently, without any movement, if we keep it in a place, it becomes curd. From that curd, we get butter. And this butter we offer to Govinda. If we don't offer to him, he steals and takes it away. So, but when this whole cycle, it doesn't go back. The butter doesn't go back to the cow. So, cow, just by taking grass, is giving us so much throughout. Now coming to the last story over here, this is about superstition. See, superstition is faith without reason. See, Sanatana Dharma was bogged down by superstitions. That is the time when Adi Shankara had to come to revive Hinduism. So, and fanaticism is a violent aspect of superstition. So here this is a very laughable story. Actually, a sannyasi there was a cat in his ashrama which was all the time moving around and troubling him. So he ties up the cat and puts it next to him. So his students who used to come every day and attend classes and all, at one point they felt that tying a cat was also very important. So they decided that for doing any spiritual practice, we need to tie a cat next to us. So this is the kind of blind ideas that we get without understanding. So we have to use our common sense. So we will stop this first episode, and Pushkala will sing the Bhaja Govindam once again, and then we will continue later.
Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate.